Howdy all you delicious people, I'm here today to view the Peripheral Season 1, Episode 8. So I kind of want to go in, like, this season as a whole, to kind of talk about, like, if it is a positive or overall negative, and then go into this episode, and then hopefully go into spoilers, and just kind of quickly wrap this up. So, as far as the season goes, I think that this season is definitely in the positive. I would give it a thumbs up overall. Yeah, there is some clunky episodes, but I think there is some really good characters here that sell you on the show. So, I think that a lot of people will go on and be won over by this show overall. I feel that this last episode is to be very dialogue heavy, and like it's telling you where they're going to go into the second season. And so really you can kind of take it and leave it if you want to just go on and watch this last episode, which a lot of people probably will regardless, because it's one last episode. So definitely it's a good season. Check it out if you've never gone on seen Peripheral before and you're just like on the fence of like, well, like it feels like he has a good clear, like it seems that I should watch this. Because some people are still always on the fence, and there's only 8 episodes for the show, so that, check it out. So, now going into this episode specifically. So, we have 4 guys at a bar, and they're saying words like triumphant, and I'm like, what? It kind of seems like these guys aren't all that knowledgeable, but then they pop out a word like this, and I'm just like, like, okay. Man, if I didn't have problems with the goofy, uppity language from episodes from before, now I'm freaking annoyed. Now I really just have like a what? Like you're just popping out massive words like this, and just like with characters that I would not get to the conclusion that they would have this kind of knowledge inside their brain unless it was trivia night at the bar. So I don't get it. But so we end up having Constantine, who seemingly is to be in hot water. There's something, it seems, that is to be going really wrong with Constantine. Something went horribly awry from what happened in the last episode. So we also have Ainsley and Flynn that seem to be going into an alliance with one another because it seems that it's mutually beneficial for them to be together, and like kind of Flynn will kind of help Ainsley and vice versa because Ainsley might just have knowledge that Flynn does not have from the future, and Flynn can go on and kind of take care of certain business that Ainsley just can't take care of. So it kind of becomes a mutually beneficial thing. We also seem to have Ash that is tiptoeing her way to Charisse, giving her a bit of knowledge that she might not be aware of. And so Ash is going to also get something out of that. And we have a seemingly missile silo problem that is going on. It seems that we have Flynn that is to have to go on and figure that out. Because it seems that there's going to have to be some jackpot things going into the past that Charisse is setting up. So how is she doing it? Not quite sure. She's probably just paying off some people. So, from the past, because for some reason we're just going on and having certain people from the past getting information and so on and so forth, and just being told that they need to do things. So, we are also to finally have Flynn figure out how Wilf feels about her, as well as a number of other things within Wilf's connection with her. And we are to also finally have Wilf meet up with West, and finally having West kind of tell like Wilf where he really stands and where he should be standing, and so on and so forth. Uh, Other than that, like I think I kind of covered most of the stuff that kind of happens in this episode. I'm trying to also be very vague, and there's probably something that is going to pop into my brain when eventually we go on to go into spoilers. We also have Jasper that is to go on and do something quite interesting in this episode, where we might have him like regret that later on, but it is what it is. It's too late to turn back time now. So, with that said, I think I'm going to go on and just go into spoilers about this episode. Let me know how you felt about this season or about this episode specifically. If you were to, of course, hope really that there was a second season coming down the road, or they had confirmed it already that there's going to be one, because it's freaking Amazon. Like, Amazon can go on and put a second season, roll the dice on it, whatever, because it's Amazon. They're like freaking trillionaires or whatever, especially from what had happened with the whole uh, like pandemic thing. Like all of a sudden, like Amazon was like, "Oh my god, we're in the money," and it was like, wow, like I guess somebody just had to benefit off of that horrible event. Sadly enough, so so let's go into it. Let's go into this last bit of episode. So double fiving it up. Spoilers, everybody. We're gonna get into it because really, it's just a bunch of dialogue. There's some action, a little bit of action, but it's mostly just dialogue. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, with that said, let's go into spoilers. So, in the beginning of this episode, we have Flynn who is talking to Connor because he's in this hospital bed, and Connor is going on and talking about like, well, man, if he could have gone back in time, he would have killed that dog instead of trying to save it. And that also he kind of compares like being in the past to chess. How really, of course, when, or more than likely, like Connor is to state that like the present is to, of course, kind of be like a chess move where once you get like checkmated, like there is no going back, there is no move that you can make, and there is no reboot. So we have Constantine that has just come from killing, and Constantine is putting the gun in the goofy device, the what do you call it? The whatchamacallits? Yeah, the whatchamacallit. The doodad. He ends up putting that doodad back in the bag. And so we have Constantine that goes on this radio and is to call that there is, to of course be some deaths. They end up bringing the police there. And so we also have Bob, who is to be armed and dangerous. So, like, basically the threat is still out there, that Bob had gone on to kill these people, supposedly. So when the sheriff and the ambulance and everybody just comes in, they end up finding out that that Corbell is still alive. It's like, yeah! Because what a stupid mistake that Constantine did by not making sure that guy was dead. Sheriff, dead, for sure. But, yeah, Corbell is still alive. You know what? I really liked the Corbell character anyways, so it's satisfying to know that he's still alive. And I'm just kind of waiting for Corbell to be putting the boots to Constantine at some point, just kind of like to threaten him or whatever. to have had the sheriff under Corbell's thumb. Now, like, Corbell is to have Constantine under his thumb, because I'm sure, guess who's probably going to be the next sheriff? Probably Constantine. So, we have Constantine that is to realize, he's like, well, like, there's nothing that I can do about, like, Corbell being alive now. So, we have Constantine going to see Dee Dee, and we have Flynn, who is, like, kind of talking to her mother in this ambulance, and so Dee Dee is mentioning how, like, Bob is dead, and that, like, Constantine tells Dee Dee that the sheriff is dead, and that Corbell is still alive, and Dee Dee's like, well, like, but, like, Corbell had killed the sheriff, right? You're just gonna just state that. And Reverend Constantine's like, sure, like, yeah. So they both hug. So yeah, so the one thing that I also didn't get about this episode, how did Constantine learn about the whole missile silo thing? I don't remember that happening in any part of the dialogue in this episode, but I guess he finds out about it. But anyways, so going back. So we have Jasper and Articus and Cash and the other guy that seems to not really have a name here. They're all at this bar together, and so Atticus is talking to Jasper and stating it's like, well, hey, like who's gonna be the next in line for Corbell? Because obviously Corbell, like, he's gonna die soon, is what they naturally assume. So Atticus is saying it's like, well, hey, like, what happens when we have the three kings and we have it to be the triumphant or triumvirate, triumvirate, rate, triumvirate. It's a weird, goofy name. So we have Atticus is like, yeah, like, all right, so like the three kings have to battle it out to become one, and so we have Atticus who's basically like already claiming that he's king and telling Jasper like, hey, like, go get me another pitcher of beer, like, put it on your dad's tab, because it's still open, because I know he's dead anyways. So Jasper is to have gone on and be at that bar and just gonna sit for a while. So Jasper is driving all the other guys home, and he ends up leaving all the guys by this railroad track, and he's like, I'm just gonna have them get hit by this train. I'm gonna have them all get killed. So Jasper ends up calling Billy Ann, and he ends up talking to Billy about when they were playing Monopoly, and how Jasper had stated, Billy had stated during that Monopoly game, how, like, Jasper would go on and kind of let everybody, like, continue to get money, even though, like, Jasper knew that they were losing. So, but all of a sudden, Burton had made this, like, miraculous comeback, and he had won the game. And so, like, the moral of that whole story was, like, that Jasper was being too kind and letting other people win besides him. So, like, Billy was telling Jasper, it's like, well, hey, like, maybe there's a time where you just need to win. You just need to go on and finally, like, do something good for you. So Jasper then, like, realizes from that conversation that maybe he should not go on and kill these men. And so he then runs off to his car and he realizes he left the keys inside the car. So he's banging on the window, telling the guys, like, hey, wake up, you stupid schlubs. Wake up, Atticus. Wake up, guys. Wake up. Like, you're all, like, probably blackout drunk because all of them fell asleep in the car simultaneously because they all got so drunk. So, by the time that Atticus comes to, they end up getting hit with the train, and so Jasper's like, well, there's nothing I can do now. They're dead. So let's go on and Flynn. So Flynn had gone on and become the stub, and she had gone on to talk to Ainsley. And so Ainsley is to start to realize that Charisse is becoming a real threat. And that it seems that since Flynn is to be against Charisse, and it seems that Ainsley wants to head in that direction also, that Ainsley is to state, it's like, well, I think that we should have a temporary alliance. That, if anything, like, I have future knowledge that can go on and help Flynn greatly, so she can kind of weather the storm that is coming in her past, and Flynn can go on and kind of work outside the law and beyond what Ainsley can do. And so, like, that's where Ainsley is to see that their partnership is mutually beneficial. So, we have Ainsley that is a state for Flynn. It's like, well, hey, like, you can go on and you can now, like, kind of list demands and kind of, like, ask, like, how we can really go on and, like, help one another. So Flynn is to mention, like, well, like, my mother is still sick. Like, she's still blind. So, like, do you guys have any futuristic way to help that, to cure that? And so Ainsley is going on and consulting with what Beatrice states is the aunties. That I guess is kind of like the higher powered people. So we have Ainsley that states to Flynn, it's like, well, I'm sorry, like, there's no other medication that we can provide for your mother to keep her alive. So she will be dying in 23 days. I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do. So we have Flynn that disconnects from this meeting, and so Burton is telling Ainsley, it's like, I'll talk to her. So they all disconnect, so Burton is to kind of follow Flynn outside, and Flynn, of course, is just emotional and crying because she's going to lose her mother, and she knows exactly when it's going to happen. So we had this really nice moment that I really liked, where Flynn was going on and talking to her mother, and when Flynn's mother was getting the diagnosis, Ella was getting the diagnosis, she was thinking that maybe, like, it could be better off if she got that diagnosis to probably have Flynn finally live the life that she's always wanted, and Flynn's like, I'm living the life that I wanted. Like, it's fine. Like, and so Flynn and her mother end up talking about her dad, and kind of some memories of her dad. I'm like, oh, good. Like, so Flynn had a dad. Like, what, did you not think that she was gonna have a dad? Maybe she was just a test tube baby. Maybe that's what future is like in this show. I don't know. So maybe it's just test tube baby. Maybe she was adopted. I don't know. Could be any kind of thing. So wouldn't that have been like a big, huge reveal that it's like, oh yeah, Flynn, you were adopted? Like, yeah, I know, Ma. I'm like, whoa! They would have like gave that to us by the end of the season. I'm like, whoa! So yeah, so we start to have Flynn's mom, who is to start to fade and start to get tired. So Flynn just walks off, and so Ella's like, "Well, hey, like, where are you going?" And Flynn's like, "Well, like, you're obviously getting tired, so I thought I would just kind of walk off." So we have Ash that goes and meets up with Charisse. So Ash is going on to give Charisse information that she might have about Flynn, basically telling her that the information that Flynn is to have could be detrimental to her and could help out another alliance. And so really it's kind of like Johnny Mnemonic, where in that Keanu Reeves movie, we have like Keanu Reeves with the information to cure the shakes. And so like this movie is just kind of very similar to that. Also has like a lot of like cyber kind of internet things and so on and so forth. Plus there's also some good action into it. It's anyways. So we have Ash that is stating that Flynn is to have this like massive library within her of things. So Charisse is just like, well, okay, I think I'm gonna have to like kind of figure out how to quicken up one of these jackpot like events to figure out a way to get rid of Flynn in the past, because I guess Charisse is orchestrating all these jackpot moments from the future going into the past. So we find out that one of those would be the missile silo to just wipe out Flynn's town whatsoever. And I was like, wow, okay, that's pretty extreme. So, but then Charisse is to ask for Ash, like, well, hey, what do you want for this information? And Ash is just like, well, I want Lev dead. Kill off Lev. And Charisse is like, well, why? And we have Ash, who's just like, well, like she like in her brain was to show us the scene of where Ocean had gotten sliced in the face, and so it's Ash is protecting Ocean by wanting to kill off Lev. So makes sense. Like Ocean is a good hand to Ash, so yeah, she's going on and like, okay, like since Lev is like, and I'm wondering if Charisse is gonna turn on Ash and just state it's like, well, hey, Lev is to be more valuable than you are, so I'm gonna kill you off and kill Ocean and work with Lev. Maybe that's gonna be like the turnaround, the big twist of the following season. Who knows? But so we where could we be now? So we have Flynn that talks to Connor. And Flynn is also to talk to Ainsley. So no. Let's get to the Wilf and Flynn stuff. We'll get all that out of the way. So we have Wilf that goes on to talk to, or we have Flynn who talks to Wilf. So come to find out they go together, and we have Wilf that is talking about his past, his earliest memories. And where Wes is of thought that Wilf had these certain memories, the only thing that Wilf can really remember is being at the transit camp, and the food queues, and rain on a blue tarp, or rain that's pouring down from a blue tarp, his mother's face, or what he would assume would be his mother's face, and that what had happened to his mother is that there were certain raids that went on in the camps, and they had started to kill off a lot of people, and I guess maybe Wilf's father was one of those people. So we now have possibly that Ainsley had at any time been able to peek on what uh, really like the Peripheral or Flynn could be talking about at any moment. So we have Flynn that comes up with this idea of like, well, hey, how about you like, how about we connect together, we link up together, and you can tell me through your brain like how you feel about certain things, and I'll just start to ask you questions. So we all of a sudden have uh like Flynn that is asking Wilf, it's like, well, what do you think about Ainsley? And like he's remembering her talking about alliance. It's like, well, yeah, uh like Wilf is basically saying through that, it's like, I think we can trust her. And so it's like, okay, what do you think of Lev? And Wilf is to remember like some bad thing that Lev had stated to him. It's like, okay, so like he doesn't trust Lev. So Wilf is going on and or Flynn is also asking Wilf about like, what do you think of me? And so uh, they show the scene of which they kiss, and so it's like, okay, so like we finally realize that maybe they do love one another, but like it's kind of hard to really just do that. So because they're in the past and the future, but maybe that'll change when we get into season 2. So we, of course, have Flynn, who is to state that there is a certain location, some kind of riddle that uh, that West had to have Wilf figure out where she is. So we go on to have Wilf talking about this whole thumb thing, and so Flynn starts to figure it out, and so they end up going on to realize where West is. And so when West has a peripheral, we have her state, it's like, well, hey, like, I'm going to go on and talk to Wilf, but I'm not going to talk to the stub. Like, I'm not going to talk to her because, like, anybody can go on and get information from her. So I'm not going to go on and talk to her. We also had Ocean and we had Ash, who were watching on as Wilf and Flynn were together, and Ocean's like, well, hey, do you think that we should go on and we should like tell somebody like what's going on with these two? And Ash is like, no. Like, if anything, like we work for Charisse now, so we're not telling anybody. We're just kind of leaving everybody in the dark until we really have to. So we like I'm sure Ash is kind of completely leaving Lev in the dark. So we have Wilf that tells Flynn that he's gonna go on and tell her everything, like he promises, of whatever West told him. So Wilf leaves, and so Wilf talks to West, and so West is to say that like Lev and his family were to have been the ones who were to really like take advantage of the whole like jackpotting event, and that Wilf is on the wrong side. And so West has gotten herself like this big massive alliance that comes behind Wilf, and so like West is really asking Wilf, it's like, well, hey, like what side are you on? Because like you should choose my side because you've been on the wrong side this whole entire season. You've been talking to Wilf, and Wilf is just using you as some chess piece and not really like as an equal. So with that said, uh we have Flynn that is to find out. I think Flynn finds out from Ash that Ash had gone on to give Charisse the information that she did. And so Flynn, of course, is to go on and want to talk to Connor about the whole like way that she can possibly get a reboot, because we have Flynn that's talking to Constantine, and Constantine is mentioning about the missile silo, and if Flynn knows anything about that, because it seems that Constantine is going to have to go to Flynn, even though with the way this episode ends, maybe not. But it seems that Constantine is to always have to go to somebody that seems to be connected with Flynn to get certain bits of information to be like, well, hey, do you know anything about this? Because, like, this will really greatly help me out. So, if you know anything, but it really just states that, like, well, hey, if you don't know about this, Flynn, now you know. So, Flynn goes on to realize that Charisse is going to wipe out her town, so that way Flynn would die. So wherever Flynn is going to be, that's the place of which that Flynn wants to take this missile, or take this missile silo and explode it, so that way Flynn will die. So we now have Flynn realize, like, well, I'm gonna get freaking Charisse. Like, this is gonna happen. This is going down. So we go on to have Flynn going and talking to Connor and stating it's like, well, we're gonna figure this out. So Flynn then talks to Ainsley, and it's like, okay, like, is there a possible way that we can go on and have a stub that at some point, like, Flynn can get into? And we have Ainsley that's just like, well, like, if I were to, of course, go on and do this, like, this is a big step. If I go on and I, like, give put you in a stub in the future, then, like, this is, like, me basically stating I'm declaring war. And so Flynn's like, well, I get that, but is there a way to do that? Because we also had Flynn that finally asks again, Ainsley, it's like, well, hey, like, if you could have ever turned me off as being a stub, like, could you have? And Ainsley's like, well, no. So we get that answer. So, or maybe Ainsley is lying to her. Who knows? So the whole plan of it is we have now Ainsley that is a state that Flynn is going to have to go on to this ancillary site, this ancillary site, to go on and fight against people that are just as strong and as skilled as she is, as Flynn is, and she's gonna have to go on and like, try and figure out certain information. So Flynn goes on to this site and is to look at this door. It's like, okay, like I've arrived. Like, open sesame. Like, open the door. And we all of a sudden have this random guy with this broom who's like, maybe there's something that I can help you. And Flynn goes on and immediately is to take this guy out. And she's to kind of, like, break his broom and just kind of, like, take him out. So we all of a sudden have Flynn that sees this, like, stopwatch, and it's like, it shows all the gears. And so when Flynn pulls this stopwatch out, she then sees this, like, armory room with a bunch of these other bots like Flynn. So we all of a sudden now have Flynn, who's taking all the bots out. She's breaking necks and so on and so forth. So we then have Charisse, who is talking to Flynn through one of the bots that is still like down but not completely out. So we have Flynn that knows like a certain date and certain time that Charisse is going to be at in the past. And so since Flynn knows that information, she's going to hold it over Charisse to just say like, hey, you aren't going to go on and you aren't going to nuke me in the past because I'm going to go on after you in the past and kill you off. So Charisse is like, okay, like I won't go on and I won't do the missile silo. So Charisse realizes that she is like, she's basically like checkmated here. Or she's kind of just in check as far as a chess move. Like she can't really go on and do what she wants because Flynn will come up with a counter. So Charisse backs kind of just like, okay, like I'm not going to do what I had planned. And so Flynn is to go back to the past after all this is set up. And so now Flynn is to talk to Connor and state it's like, well, hey, like, so like you are pretty good, like at being a sniper rifle, right? Like you're pretty good at shooting, right? And Connor's like, well, yeah. So Flynn tells Connor that like Burton should never know about what she's gonna go on and do, but Flynn wants Connor to shoot her in the head while she's at some place somewhere and she's going to count backwards 10 and then she will like kind of neutralize herself from the past so no one dies in the past. So we have Flynn that goes on to do what she had just said. She goes to this place, Connor has this gun out and shoots Flynn, and Flynn then arrives in the future, and Ainsley is just sitting next to her. It's like, well, like, let's go on and get work done. And Flynn's like, all right, okay, let's go. And like, that's how the episode just ends. So, with that said, yeah, like, that goes on and pretty much wraps up the show. We didn't have much of real, like, Lev in this last bit of here. And so yeah, so really I think that's it for this one. Sadly enough, like we'll see where the show may go and whichever when we'll get a follow-up. But yeah, hopefully I was going in a roundabout way. Like it's really just very hard to word these episodes. It's very hard to, like, I'm not a dialogue person. And it feels like I have to go on and figure out how I can help like grasp the whole like bit of all this. So yeah, like my weak side is always just still dialogue. I'm really good at maybe figuring out certain events or figuring out how to state things, but just coming up with dialogue from the show, it's just like bah. So. With that said, I'm going to get out of here so I can go on and do something else for today. Let me know how you felt about this season for whatever reason. Let me know if you want a second season, because of course I think a lot of people do. A lot of people were really like, yeah, about this episode, and to have also seen a lot of people just really climb onto this show whenever I would do a review, which I'm like, okay, dude, I'm not good at this. Like, I'm really not good at talking about this show. But thank everybody for going on and listening to me anyways. But anyways, I'm going to get out of here. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.